Lindsay said she popped in because I felt like I wanted to distract myself, so I came here instead. Oh, came here to be in community. I love that. Yes, one of my stuckness habits when I'm not facing, for me, even before grief, is sadness. If I don't want to feel sadness, is usually to kind of zone out or to dissociate, would be another word, right? To kind of leave the body a little bit. So let's get started here. Let me share my screen. What I'm going to do tonight on this call, oh, we got Karina coming in. Welcome in, Karina. For the first, let's see, it's 7:10 right now. For the first 15-20 minutes, I'm just going to do a short presentation where we're going to talk a little bit about what I've learned over the years from having the really, beautiful opportunity to witness a lot of grief and to also witness, like Malia was speaking about, people moving through grief or working through grief or actually feeling grief. And I think all of us trying to figure out what is the process, right? When do we know it has been processed? When do we know an emotion has been processed? And then I think the magic of psychedelics and the magic of just being a human is maybe someday we can start to become alchemists of grief. And so, an alchemist of grief to me is like, how can I then take this grief and instead of just trying to get rid of it or work through it so it's gone, how can it then become something beautiful? How can it become art or music or the way that I love people? How can my grief become a story that informs actually the gold that I have spun into my life? So let's see if we can be alchemists of grief as well as rather than just working through it and composting it, but maybe bringing it a little bit back into our lives. Yes? Okay, before we begin, as always, with Buena Vida, let's go ahead and drop into our bodies, whatever that means for you. If you are safe at home and you're not driving, you can close your eyes for just a few moments. You can take a big breath and release some of the day. The easiest way, as always, to get into the present moment is just to close your eyes or to gaze at something neutral like the floor or your hands. We spend so much of our time in our monkey minds, in the future, in the past, considering, thinking, spinning, and sometimes we have to use our conscious choice to come back into this moment. And in this moment, a way to anchor that mind that wants to run forward and backwards and in circles is just to start feeling the body. It's that simple. And my challenge for you today is a practice that I have been learning, which is not labeling the body or your experience with an emotional word, but only a sensation, a color, a sound. So maybe before I might say, oh, I have so much pain in my back, it feels sore. That must mean I'm tired. That must mean I'm stressed. That must mean I'm doing too much. Oh no. And then all of a sudden I'm in a story about my stress. But if I just breathe into my lower back and I allow myself to feel the density there, that it feels a little unsupported, it feels a little bit tight. I would say the color of that part of my body kind of feels red. And then for this breath, for the next few seconds, we're just finding a part of the body that wants your attention. Maybe it wants some movement. Maybe it wants stillness. But when you find that place, it doesn't have to have a story. It doesn't have to have an emotion. It can just be what it is. So we'll take about 3 more deep breaths here. You can breathe into that spot, or you can just breathe into your whole body. And release through the mouth. Two more big breaths with a little bit of energy. And one last breath, maybe a big one if you can. You can release on a sound or a shake. And give yourself another 30 seconds to move, to stretch, to breathe, to do whatever your body needs to do. And when we're ready, come back. Come into presence. Yes, this practice, a teacher is teaching me this practice of removing emotions from sensations, and it's transformative because the reasoning is when we have a back that is tight and red and sore, those can all exist. But when we say, oh, I have too much stress, that word stress is huge, right? That can mean like all of a sudden it's everything involved in that word. Or my shoulders are hurt because I'm sad, right? Now you have to process sad. Now you have to process everything that is involved in that. But whereas if you stay with the body and you just start naming, for me, I usually name sensations and then I start to make the sound that it would make. And it's just really working through that sensation and letting it exist. And later, if an emotion comes up, you can work with that too. But so quickly, when we're doing work with our body, whether that's breath work or just sitting with our body, the inclination is to be like, oh, I'm hurting. I'm angry, right? It's to immediately put an emotion to it. And so just learning to stick with the somatic words only, so you can start to learn the language of your body and not necessarily jumping into this entire world of anger, stress, sadness, whatever that might be, because it may not be that, right? Like my lower back right now is tight because I just went to the gym 3 days in a row. And so it doesn't have to have a lot of sadness back there. I've been paying attention to it. All right, guys, let's talk about some grief. You're going to have to forgive me because I don't have this into my full screen. Let's see if we can do it here. And if not, I'm in my era of forgiving myself, so let's do that. All right, thumbs up if you can see that. The hidden grief we don't process. Almost all of us. There's someone who keeps wanting to get in. I hope you can make it, Samsung. I know that's probably your phone's name. Hi, Samsung. Welcome in. All right. So this is from my, hello, I'm Amanda from the Buena Vida. Some of you know me, some of you do not. I've been working with psychedelics now for about 14 years, and specifically psilocybin mushrooms for 8 years, and many, many, many people. I also work with a lot of, I'm not a registered therapist or nurse or anything necessarily from the Western world, but I have worked with many modalities, therapeutic modalities, along with psilocybin, and many of those involve grief, they involve trauma, they involve somatic experiencing, which is like how we experience grief and trauma and emotions in the body. And so my big passion along with psychedelics is how do we use psychedelics as a tool to actually process things, right? Process our grief, our sadness, our loneliness, our anxiety, our burnout, and remove us from the framework, which we're all in, which is that we can just put a little thing in our mouth and make everything go away. Not even a mushroom, although the mushrooms are fantastic, but we have to step out of that mindset a little bit. So in speaking about our grief this evening, let's make sure that I can move on. You don't have to raise your hand, but you can just answer this in yourself. Is that how many of us think that we are actively grieving right now? Grieving is whatever you decide. So we're not going to talk too much about what does that mean. But if you are actively grieving, let's bring to mind what that might be. So death is, of course, the number one thing that we think of when someone is grieving, as someone in their family passed away. Now that is like an inevitable grief, right? However, I have met some people who were dealing with a very difficult end of life, and so the death was actually a relief. And it was almost that they grieved as the person was passing, as opposed to by the time the person passed, maybe there wasn't as much grief. So, do not raise your hand unless you want to, but you can. If anyone has been through a divorce, a breakup, empty nest, right? Children leaving the house, retirement, changing of your identity, health challenges, caregiving. That's one that I'm coming up close to very soon. Addiction, whether caretaking for your own addiction or someone else's addiction, burnout. And here's my favorite one. I don't want to say favorite, but dreams that never happened. That's why I have that one highlighted, right? The life we thought we were going to have. Whew, that's a big one. The places we thought we would go, the children we thought we would have, the partner we imagined we would have. Do we grieve these pieces? So here they are again. And the one I highlighted here, both 4 and 5, right? The loss of a future you imagined. Perhaps it was, when you were young that you, of course, always imagined that your parents would be alive until a certain age and they were not. So you're not just grieving that person's loss, you're grieving your life as a daughter or a son, or someone who has a mom or someone who has a dad. And the loss of yourself. So this one I think is where people feel a lot of stuckness, that they can't quite put their finger on. Is that they say like, I just feel like I've lost myself. Or I used to be fun, I used to be interesting, I used to be excited about life, but I feel like I've lost myself. Or maybe you've lost yourself in a job. This happened to me. My entire life is just this work now, and I've lost myself in the identity of this office. And, who am I outside of this work? Who am I outside of this, maybe this person, if it's like a codependent relationship? So loss of self and loss of the future you imagined are usually some hidden grief that most of us have, but we don't come from cultures, most of us, that teach us how to honor and process this type of grief. So, here's some of my favorite words that I see all the time. So take a look at some of these words. Now here we're starting to get into the feeling or the actions that many times come about when we have this hidden grief, right? We talked about stuckness, brain fog. Brain fog's from about 100 different things these days. Overthinking. Those of you that know me know that my favorite phrase is overthinking is underfeeling. Getting stuck in overthinking many times is that we are not processing emotions. And if you say to yourself, I am overthinking, well, you already know yourself very well. Because you're not saying I'm medium thinking, you're saying I'm overthinking. So you know that it's not working anymore. Perfectionism, right? Like really trying to control environments, because if we are perfect and we act perfect and we control, then the grief maybe can't get in. Um, a feeling of not having a purpose. So that can really relate to identity loss, right? Loss of a job, loss of, maybe I think for women, now I'm in my mid 40s, right? Loss of the maiden. I'm going through that with some women in my life, right? Like we are no longer young. What does it mean to lose youth? And to honor it and to accept that I am no longer a young woman. That one gives me chills in my body. Like to really accept, or those of you that are mothers know that going from a woman to a mother is a massive ego death that will change you forever. All right, why don't we do this, guys? Why don't we process our grief? What do you think? Which one of these is it? Just gotta stay strong. Just keep going. Gotta wake up the next day. Gotta keep busy. Get over it. Which one? What was your family anthem when it came to something difficult? I think mine was, "Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." You can usually hear a parent saying it. That's my mom. "Oh, you'll be fine." Right? An animal died. I had a really terrible moment when I was a child during an earthquake where my fish shook and fell off the shelf and kind of died in front of my eyes, like it was a betta fish. And I was in the earthquake and I watched the fish die, and it was really scary. And I just remember after that, "Oh, we'll get you another fish. Oh, you'll be fine." And so you learn, oh, okay, well, I guess there's no need to process that. But where does it go when we don't process that? Where do those memories go? Good old body. Just stuff them in.
How about if we didn't talk about feelings.
We'll get there. We're going to talk about some
Oh,
feelings. Yeah, they will
gotcha.
get there
Okay.
for sure. So here's, we can see this experience of the body. These are just some examples, I think, that I see a lot of times of what it means when we say the body remembers or the body keeps the score, right? Are these tension, fatigue, like waves of fatigue that seem to come out of nowhere and don't have a biological underpinning. Oh, hypervigilance. Anyone have that, right? Always break, like, what? Right? Someone knocks on the door, someone this, like, you never leave fight or flight. That's so common, I think, especially right now. Anxiety or disconnection. Disconnection is like a safety mechanism of like you push yourself far enough, and then disconnection is the nervous system saying like I can't keep you in your body any longer. Like there's just not enough more space for this. So something I see a lot with psychedelics are people who feel after the journeys that there's like more space in their body to receive. And it's hard to describe, right? Like it's just like, oh, there's more of me available now. Like I can actually be more here in my body. I can be with people more, whereas before I was just always leaving, or I was just never present. So talking about some mushrooms here, psilocybin doesn't create emotions, right? So it's not like you drink your tea or you interact with the mushrooms and it causes all of these different emotions. It really is it reveals. It's like a giant flashlight and a magnifying glass of just like what has been hiding in here. These were some of the ones I thought of someone finally grieving a divorce that you never let yourself, right? Because then you had to get through, and there was children, and then there was college, and you never had that chance to actually. I hear this all the time, especially after ceremonies, is like, oh, I didn't realize that I never grieved. There was someone recently who was like a really close friend of mine, a really close guest, that her husband had been sick many, many, many years ago, and he was totally fine now, and everything was great. But when she was taking care of him, it was very stressful. And is he going to be okay each day? And so during a journey, she finally got to process that particular grief, which was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to lose my husband for, a few months every day, up and down. And because he was okay, I didn't think that it was grief, and I didn't think that it was something left in my body. But this is why it's hidden. So this is why mushrooms are so fantastic, because you don't have to think of everything that you need to do, right? You don't have to sit and make a list of like, here's what I need to feel, here's what I need to grieve, here's the things I haven't forgiven. It will just come to the surface. And when you make your intention, those of you that have done mushrooms know this, right? That like at the end of the day, the mushrooms are going to do what they're going to do. It's great to have an intention, but if I always say, like, just to make it easy on the journey, is to say, here's how I want to feel, and anything standing in the way of that, I want to let go, which a lot of times is grief. I want to feel free and I want to feel creative. And anything that's holding me back from that, any belief system, any old feeling I haven't felt, anyone I haven't forgiven, whatever it is that's standing in the way of my freedom and my creativity, I'm ready to look at it and to let it go. And be careful what you wish for, because that can be a big one, right? To say. And the good thing is, in the right place and with the right safety, this medicine is not going to overwhelm you, right? It will go like the onion, layer by layer. You don't need to feel every piece of grief in one night that you've ever had in your whole life. But the layers might surprise you. When you're ready, you might get a really big journey of like, some people, and including people who recently, just from a retreat a few weeks ago, start to feel generational grief, right? Their mothers and grandmothers backwards, where there was so much unfelt epigenetic grief that was still living inside of our cells and living inside of our DNA. And I hear this all the time, and even though I'm skeptical, I can't help but kind of be a believer that people say, like, I put something down last night that wasn't mine. The depression was not mine. The anxiety was not mine. It was someone from my lineage. It was someone back that it had been passed to me, and I don't need to process it or think about it or do anything. It's just gone. And that's beautiful. I mean, that is really, really beautiful when that can happen. We don't need psychedelics to do that kind of ancestral work. There are many, many ways and tools to do it. It can be very helpful in uncovering these pockets that we just don't have conscious access to. So happiness is a state, right? It comes and goes like the clouds, and you see a dog and you get happy, and then you think of something from last night, then you get sad. And wholeness or integration is so much better of, I believe, is a goal or an intention of how we want to feel. Is like, I just want to feel whole. I just want to feel myself. I want to feel worthy of caring for myself, as someone, I guess, just told me recently, and I don't know why that shook me to my bones. She said, I finally feel worthy of caring for myself. Not like I'm going to take care of myself or I'm learning a book about taking care of myself. I feel worthy of taking care of myself. Like, what a breakthrough that is. Healing is not becoming someone new. I'm not new. I'm not any different. I mean, I am different, but like, I'm still my crazy self that I've always been. Hopefully what psychedelics have done for me, and I know they have done for me, is like I'm so much more comfortable with the fact that I sent out the wrong link tonight, right? I have way more forgiveness. I have way more understanding for who I am as a human, and that I'm going to make mistakes, and that I'm going to, compare myself to others, because we all do that. And some days I'm going to be judgmental because I forget to be curious. And just, to me, the goal of any of this work, whether it's self-improvement, psychedelics, anything, is can I come into wholeness of myself? Can I have love and acceptance for all parts of me, even if some of them never change, right? Even if till the day I die, I'm still kind of a perfectionist. That's okay, right? Can I have some grace for that? Okay, so here's some questions for you guys, and then we're going to jump into a little Q&A about anything and everything. You can pick any one of these that resonates with you. What have I lost in this life? Is there a future, or what future did I imagine for myself that so far, maybe you can say so far, has never happened? Is there a part of myself that I feel that is lost, that I am grieving? And this is a great one. This is actually a great one to ask yourself often, which is, what am I still carrying? What am I still carrying? The easiest way for me, if you're a curious observer of the way that you act each day, to find out what am I still carrying, is when you get triggered. right? When you're like, oh, God, this guy always does that. It's like, oh, okay, that's something that's still alive. Um, that's a big question. So I don't expect you to know the answers to these, but these are some arrows and some clues that will point you maybe toward these hidden pockets of grief. What have I lost? What future did I imagine that is not here? What part of myself? Like right now, I'll give you an example. I am grieving right now, currently. I'm grieving my youth. I'm grieving, even I would say, since I'm in my 40s, I'm kind of grieving my 30s as a decade and who I was and what I was able to do and the friends I had, the friend groups that I no longer have. Um, that kind of the hope that she had and the excitement for life that was very different than I have now. And instead of just ignoring that and being like, well, it's okay, everyone gets older and we all grow up and all of those words that we try to put on top of it, it's like, oh, I can really sit with this and allow myself to be sad, allow myself to say, wow, that time is over, and it's not coming again. Um, I feel that my being in middle life is confusing because I don't yet know who I am as someone who's getting to be in the second half of my life, but I feel like I've let go of a lot of who I was in my younger life. So I'm in this weird caterpillar mush part. I don't really know what I love anymore. I'm not sure about my dreams for the future. Those are changing. So I'm even grieving that. Some goals I used to have that I just don't have anymore. Um, yeah, a lot. I'm grieving a lot. And that's okay, right? It's okay to like for it to be a process, and it's some things need specific attention and some things are just going to come with time. And maybe these new desires or this new person is going to be in the next 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years. And there's no way of really knowing, but grieving a future that I imagined, that one is very hard for me because some shame comes up with that, some disappointment in myself, this idea of like, what did I do wrong, or where did these dreams go? And the process of grief, as we think about these, I'm go ahead and stop my share. The process of grief, first of all, and we're not going to go too deeply into this, but acknowledgement is so big. To just say out loud, wow, I am not young anymore. And that feels confusing, and that feels sad and weird and shameful somehow. And so just acknowledging the reality of what you're feeling in your grief and allowing it to be there is, I think, is a step that most of us don't even get to. We only allow ourselves to process this when it's an outward, societally acceptable form of grief, right? A parent dying, a divorce, right? The obvious ones. And people go, oh, you must be grieving, right? Or, oh, we'll give you time. But as we all know, the only way that you can ever grieve is if there was love. You don't grieve something you didn't love. You don't grieve that, that garbage truck is purple instead of red, right? You don't grieve, and the deeper we grieve, the deeper we loved. And so getting to that, to me, is the alchemy of these hidden pockets of grief, is like, eventually this is going to turn into love. Eventually this is going to turn into appreciation for my life. And perhaps, like many of us know, those of you that have had huge losses and very intense, obvious grief many times, and those are the people I love running into, they can alchemize that into teaching, into sharing, into helping others, into telling their story, right? And having people resonate with it. And this is why some of the most beautiful and fantastic leaders in the world are the ones who have had the most grief and have had just absolutely unbelievable lives of just one thing after the next. And so my hope today, as we ask ourselves these questions, who did I want to be? What is something I haven't grieved from my past that I just brushed off and said, oh, that'll be fine. I have a friend right now who's grieving losing her infant, who's now a toddler. And she's like, whew, right, it's going so fast that I can barely catch up of like the speed. And it's like, I don't have a baby anymore. Even if maybe that's just a moment, right? Where you get to like look at a picture of your baby and say like, wow, this is a moment that's now gone. This is how much I loved you as a little tiny baby. And, even those little moments when we can just take a moment, accept the grief, listen to it, maybe even say it out loud. This is what I'm grieving. This is what I have lost. This is what I'm letting go. Your body will start to take you through it, and it wants to be felt. It wants to be acknowledged. And with the larger grief, kind of like Malia was speaking about, that is where in our lives, the bigger tools, like psychedelics, of course, we're talking about that a little bit, community, art, I really believe, right? Like dance, music, painting, like moving energy into a piece of art, or even just into something that you express, some way that you can express your grief is very important. And being witnessed, I think that brings back to community too, is not keeping this all inside, right? Years ago, I never would have sat on a Zoom and said to some people I know and some strangers, oh, I'm grieving my youth, right? Because I would have been too embarrassed, and I would have been thought, oh, that's so petty, or that's, some people are going through a really hard time. Like I don't deserve to have grief over that. But because I've done this work and I realize that the more that I ignore those pockets of pain and those pockets of sadness, the more they get into my body, and then the more disconnected I feel from my life and from others. It's like now I've learned the practice of just admitting, like, here it is, it's at the surface. It doesn't have to register to anyone else. It doesn't have to be meaningful to anyone else. I just can actually admit it out loud, feel it, and then get really, really curious about it. Like lately, I was like, well, how can I get really curious about this idea of moving through stages of life, honoring them, not chasing, right? Like there's this idea I feel around, and maybe some of you are going through this with going through different stages of your life, retirement, maybe it's a different decade. I'm in my 60s now, right? What does that mean? Oh, I'm in my 60s now. And really honoring and going back, and instead of the two choices that society gives us is like try to get it all back, right? Be youthful, anti-aging, gotta look young, gotta like get it, like, just get the youth back, or be totally fine with it. Just totally embrace it. No big deal. Everybody's fine when they're 60. It's cool. And, usually someone's trying to sell you something on both of those sides. But instead, like, what if you can just be in that weird, sticky part in the middle where, like, it's weird. I don't know what it's like to be retired yet. I worked with a lot of people who are about to retire. Um, it's big, because everybody from society is like, oh, isn't that great? Oh, you're retiring. That's so awesome. Look, lucky you. Oh, congratulations. And maybe inside they're like, oh, like my work was my life. My work was how I felt worthy. So not working for that doesn't sound that exciting to me. And who am I going to be, right? Am I just going to be somebody with hobbies? Like, who am I, just somebody who is traveling? Like, I don't know who this person is who is retiring. And they've, again, with the help of psychedelics, a lot of times it's that we're able to process those feelings and emotions and those belief systems sometimes, right, of who we're going to be. So with that, if anyone would like to first, before we go into even like a Q&A, if anyone has something just on their heart or something that got brought to the surface when we're talking about grieving these old versions of ourselves, time periods, anything that you feel like you're either actively grieving or maybe you don't know how to grieve, I just want to open up the space for a share or a question or whatever. I just want to open this to if someone wants to be heard or to be seen You're welcome. And you can raise your little Zoom hand or you can unmute. I don't get to see a lot of your beautiful faces, but that's okay. I know you're here. What are you guys grieving or what have you moved through lately?
I'm grieving. Um, my oldest is just turned 18 and just graduated high school. And so then September they go to college. And it's kind of like what you were saying about the retirement, where everyone's like, that's so great. And yeah, but it also sucks. And so I feel like I'm grieving the family that we built for 18 years, the four of us, and we're about to be a trio. And it is wonderful, and I'm glad that they feel ready and that they can go, but I'm definitely like, that's why I came, because I know I'm trying to distract myself, and that's okay too, to have some distraction. But I definitely am uh feeling a lot of loss. And no, we're gaining, but I'm feeling the loss.
Mhm. Do you feel open to a reflection?
Sure.
Hmm. I just love you so
I love you too.
much. Hmm. I could feel and I noticed even in just the way that you were speaking, if I can use this as a really beautiful example, how much we want to say, there is this loss, but like I should be grateful too. It's gonna be good, right? It's gonna be really good. That's a that's natural, right? It's natural um, to want to reframe it or again, it is right. It can be so many things at once. It can be hard and weird and exciting and beautiful, and I'm grateful for it, but I'm also really sad. So just I think in your own practice, it would be a good idea to say, be in a do some breath or do some journaling by yourself and say, if I were to let myself just feel the loss, not the excitement and the gratitude and things are going to be good, but just that one piece of like, this unit is going to be different forever. And can I let myself really fully, right? Even if it's just for a few moments, like, can I really let myself feel that loss before I quickly, make sure I reframe it as something beautiful and something exciting and see what comes up. And I know you, Lindsay, and I know that you have the tools and the space to do this. It might bring up some memories, right? It might bring up a lot of joy or past things or again, grief and love are intertwined so deeply. And maybe just an offering I might have for you is to really create something once you kind of like really feel into that. Create something for the four of you that is a ritual, that is something meaningful. As simple as, we all go to the beach and we talk about our favorite memory together, right? And we throw a stone into the water. But something that really marks, this is why I love ritual, right? Ritual is like is anything. But it's a marking of time and it's a marking of importance with intentionality. And with kids and and different people, sometimes they don't understand. But if you make it simple, right, where it's like, hey guys, like things are changing and things are going to be different, so I would really like to do something special that we can always remember that signifies this change. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like sit with that piece, and see if there's something that is. This is what I do with my dream work as well, is creating some sort of a symbolic ritual, and it can be a few minutes. It doesn't have to be anything complex. You don't have to go buy things, but something that marks in time and marks in space. Like, we accept that this is here, we are together, and we accept that this is changing, and here's our favorite. I think we'll love that. Like, here's our favorite memory or a joke or something that we love about being together. That's
I
so
love that.
sweet. And if you do,
Thanks.
you can wrangle everybody into to don't even call it a ritual. Then they'll be like, "Mom, this is so weird."
Right. No, they're used to it now.
Oh, good. Good.
They're used to it now. They just take a deep breath and they say, okay, okay.
I
Is
love
this
that.
the mushrooms?
Oh, they know. They're all
Oh,
here.
they know. They know. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for letting me share too.
yeah. I appreciate that. Anyone else have a share, a question, something they want to just be heard? Let me give it a few more seconds and then we can open it up to anything and everything. Who came here to talk about mushrooms? Anybody? Some of you that I don't know. Oh, Jacqueline, did you have a question or a.
Well, it's a combination of things. I've been following you for a while, but haven't really been able to take any actions or go any place, just life. And I'm I'm curious about using these mushrooms um, as a way to understand anxiety and depression better, and how they interact with other medications that you might be on. But putting that aside, I guess with life, the velocity of life just seems to be uh, increasing, if that makes any sense. And, going from having children go to college, then coming and going through what Lindsay appears to be going through. And it's so true. Oh my God. It's, yeah, I cried. I cried a few times. Um, but then the accumulation of loss,
Mm,
the accumulation of all the personal things you were speaking about, but of phases of life, of
mm-hmm,
people you love, of people who are close, people that you just know, surprises, people taking their own lives.
mm-hmm,
I mean, and then on top of it, this existential loss of our country,
mm-hmm,
and loss of and and almost being thrown back into Nazi Germany. I mean, it's there's so much happening, and I it's hard to even put yourself in a place right now.
yeah. I hear you. Yeah, I hear. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of things I'd love to really give you and respond to that. And I think that everyone who heard that question is probably shaking their head. Yes, right? The velocity and speed at which life is unfolding right now is palpable. Um, Everyone feels it. And um, trying to catch up to life, I think most humans I talk to cannot do it. Um, I know a lot of people in different realms, right? I know people that are spiritual and scientists and, stay at home moms and friends and religious people and non religious people. I know people in a lot of different, like, spectrums of life. And everyone feels this. Everyone feels the like, I can't catch up. I don't know if I can take a breath. There's always the next thing. Part of that I think is intentional, and part of it is that we as humans, I believe, are like living through a great awakening of consciousness. And I think that the mushrooms and a lot of the plant medicines, the ayahuasca, the San Pedro, are are really here to help us through this awakening of consciousness, right? Awakening to the powers that be, awakening to the power structures in this world, and whatever that means to you, right? Like just we I had a night, I want to tell you this because it just reminds me of what you said. A few months ago, I was home alone and I was just kind of I didn't want to watch TV and I said I don't really want to read a book. I'm just going to kind of stay and look at my fish and stare at the ceiling. And what came over me in that silence and absence of stimulation was the death of the American dream. And I was like,
Mm,
whoa, what, where did that come from? And then
mm,
what I imagined in that was like this dream, whether it was real for some people or not real for other people, that was, the dream of America, right? The dream
mm-hmm.
of this free country where you can work and you can live and you can have a house, and if you just work hard, you can do it all, and your kids can go to college, and you can, right, and you can live in this neighborhood, and you can go on adventures to the national parks, and it's going to be great, right? The dream, like that dream, I don't think is really alive for many people anymore, even the ones that have that dream. It's so then I started grieving, this story, that this very important myth, right? The myth of America. And many countries have this and many cities have this, right? I'm sure your own city, like the myth of Chicago or of Los Angeles. And humans are storytellers, and we need a myth. We need something to believe in, right? Whether it's gods or religion or the story of a country or the story of an animal, like we need something that's guiding us forward as a community and as a society. And
Joseph
so,
Campbell.
yes, everybody needs a myth, just like Joseph Campbell said. So, what I would say though, when I noticed what you said in the beginning about, you want to understand more about anxiety and depression, I would maybe challenge that a tiny bit and ask, or do you just want to let go of anxiety and depression, or do you genuinely
Probably.
want to understand it more?
If I understand it, I'm I'm a very I'm a very solutions oriented person.
Hmm.
And 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 I always have depended on my mind to tackle problems.
Hmm.
And these are things that I'm wanting to understand so that I can tackle it if I can.
Hmm.
And if I can't tackle it, then maybe there's something here that can help me do the other thing, which is to let go of it.
Yeah, that really has to be up to you. Like, if you're experiencing anxiety, I mean, man, it's so
Always,
nice to
always have.
rather than understand it, it's nice to let go of it.
That would be, you know what? That would be optimal. I guess I'm not optimistic about that
Hmm. Yeah.
because I know I have it generationally, at least from one side of the family.
Hmm.
So my I know I have it from my mother. But
Hmm.
I know because she is an anxious mess. But she's a hot mess. She always has been. And so she and I know, so I have a similar thing, but I've spent a lot of time and a lot of therapy trying to manage all that.
Yeah. Well, this
So,
is what I'll tell you about like most therapy and how do I say this? Almost everyone that I work with has done some type of therapy, if not many different types. So luckily, I have
mhm.
a lot of that, and myself as well. And what I understand about anxiety and know about anxiety and have felt and have worked with people, I've worked with people who have so much anxiety they can barely leave the house and they still somehow come to a retreat. Like it's a miracle that they even make it,
Wow.
because it's just completely controlling their lives. And anxiety is very interesting because it tells the story that if you can just figure it all out, that you will feel better. But anxiety lives in the body. So it wants you to keep going to the mind over and over and over and over again. And yet it's in the body. And it's when we don't feel safe enough to process it in the body and then the mind can actually quiet enough so that eventually we can go back to the mind when it's calm and when it's open, right? And when it can consider, right? Like when we can consider all of the options in a calm, grounded way. But anxiety is like, no, 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 don't you dare go to the body. Like, stay here with all of this thinking. And if you just keep
Well,
thinking and thinking, you know.
it's very limbic, is what it is. What I
Mhm.
find is that when it happens, it's not within my prefrontal cortex.
Yeah,
It's someplace else,
yeah.
and it is very animal.
It
It
is
is
very animal,
just
and I mean the thing with psychedelics, not all of them, but psilocybin, DMT, specifically, they really do begin to allow you to move out of that when the like you said, the limbic brain, the animal brain, and also the
mhm,
amygdala. So people who have childhood trauma,
yes,
who have experienced anxiety, their amygdala is hyperactivated and it's usually overactive. So
yes,
so
childhood trauma.
yeah. So
Yes,
getting
yes.
thinking your way out and saying, "Hey brain, don't be in the amygdala. Hey brain," like just like we're not gonna do it. It's a program. We're not gonna do it. I'm talking about therapy about your mom 100 times isn't gonna do it. So this
No,
is why, psychedelic medicine, in addition to other therapies, right? Like I'm not here to
yes.
spout that mushrooms heal everything, but what I've seen is they can at least, for a lot of people, give you a breath. They can give you a few months, a few weeks of like that big breath that you need so that other therapies, other modalities, right, like the spaciousness that you can't feel when things are so tight, and they really do work that way. And I can send you, actually, if you'd like, we did with one of our researchers from University College London. She goes really deep into the brain science of what is happening with psilocybin and how it's like affecting every region of the brain, including those that are overactive due to trauma, due to again,
Mhm.
like I said, like I mentioned, being passed down not only with your actual interactions with your mother, but like through her genetic line. Um,
Yep.
and the good thing is, when you come to a retreat, or if you decide to do psilocybin, however you decide to do it, you don't have to figure it all out. Like you can really just lay it down and say, okay, like I'm just gonna face whatever is here. And the good thing about when you are a naturally anxious person, definitely choose, a place that you're gonna feel as safe as possible, because doing taking mushrooms already, to anyone even who's calm, it's kind of an anxiety producing experience, right? You're going into a different, I see Joanne shaking her head, she's like, yeah, right? Like you're changing your consciousness, right? You're going into this dreamlike state. Your body is maybe doing all kinds of things. And so to me, when people say, oh, does anyone ever have a bad trip at Buena Vida, my answer from the bottom of my heart is no. And that doesn't mean that people don't have a really, really insane trip or a difficult trip or one they weren't expecting. But a bad trip is when you don't feel safe, your environment is not safe, no one is there that knows and is trained how to maybe take a 1 out of 10 of anxiety and prevent it from getting to a 10 out of 10 really quick.
Right.
And
Hmm.
I even have experienced someone who felt like they were maybe about to have a panic attack, and I was like, I am trained to know how to work with this. Like, to know how to
Well,
breathe, to know how to be with your body. So if you do decide to do this, just make sure, like that you ask those questions of the leaders or the people who are going to be with
mhm.
you, of like, okay, let's say I take my mushrooms and then I have a panic attack. What are you going to do? Like how are you
Well,
going to either prevent that or
after enduring a couple of those, I know exactly what to do.
mm. When
Which
you're
is
with
just, there's
mushrooms,
not
it
a
might be
lot.
different. The
It
mushroom
might be.
brain is different.
It might be. And also, without taking up too much of the group's time, I guess the other thing is I'm trying to come off of
Mm,
the other medications,
yeah.
and I'm hoping that this kind of treatment periodically will help me maintain a more solid, stable state, I
Mm.
guess.
Is there anyone in here, Joanne, that maybe wants to speak to? She's shaking her head. Because rather than me going blah 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 Buena Vida, I mean it's my organization. Joanne, do you have, because I feel like you understand that, of like the amount of treatments and like how that has helped, like how the mushrooms have helped that,
Um,
if you want to.
yeah, no, no. It it's a process. I was in your shoes. When did we start this journey, Amanda? 5 years ago.
I think 5.
Um, and I was on antidepressants for many years, without tremendous success over those years. What I can say is in the end, I came off of antidepressants. I went to a retreat. I've been down there twice now. Um, and it's been the most beneficial thing that I have ever done in my life. Because it not only got me off a medication that wasn't working, that was putting me, and I've been through therapy, talk therapy, along with um, antidepressants for years. Um, and it's put me in a place where I feel like I know who I am. I feel like I understand what, like right now, this whole grief thing makes so much sense to me that it's like hitting a baseball and hitting a home run because I've been putting the pieces, trying to put pieces together. And when you sent this out, I thought, wow, this is what it's all about. But getting back to the anxiety and depression, it going through that process, I was a nervous wreck, but I knew I needed to do something that was more of a shift within me, not putting a band-aid on top of me and saying, okay, I'll see you next week for another 30 minutes and make sure you got your prescription. And it just, because I wasn't finding me. I wasn't finding or feeling anymore either. I wasn't in a place where I could even feel anything. I felt like there was cellophane between myself and the rest of the world. And now I'm so sensitive that every time the wind blows, if I'm in the wrong place, I'm like, oh God, but that's not a bad thing. But what I can say is it's changed my life, tremendously. It's given me opportunity. I've had a couple jobs that I don't know that I would have been able to manage if I didn't pull myself through that hole or pop up out of that rabbit hole, because I was really far down. I was entrenched in depression. And the anxiety, not so much. I probably have more anxiety now that I put on myself because of what goes on. But they're not bad things. I believe that fear causes anxiety. And right now I have a lot of fears, and I think some of them are succeeding because there's some things that I've been challenged with that I have potential to be pretty successful at. But I think if you sit with yourself and think about what it is and how you want to feel and where you want to go with it, you'll know. You'll know. Deep down inside. It's a lot of letting go. It's a lot of letting go of that fear of controlling things and knowing that you really don't have any control no matter what you think. You have to just kind of sit with yourself. Um, uh, I don't know. It overwhelms me to think about how it all started and where I am today because it's a huge shift for me. Huge. And it was worth all the painful moments. Yeah, right. I mean, and thank you, Amanda, and all the people um at Buena Vida that participated in that and helped me through that because there were some pretty rough spots, but really rough spots, I should say. But I truly believe that those steps is just a staircase to the next thing that's going to happen. And I never thought that way because I was too busy letting somebody else tell me how I thought or felt, and medication wasn't the answer for me. Now that's my, that's my experience.
Yeah.
Difficult, yes. Um, Unwise, I don't believe so, not for me. I hope that helps. I don't know. It's hard to articulate sometimes because a million things flood through my head because this is where I was. I was on my couch for days on end. I got up one day after doing months and months of research. I got in touch with Amanda and I called my cousin. I said, "You're going to take my dog. I'm going to drop her off, and you're going to take me to the airport." And it was that simple because I could not get up off the couch. So for me, that decision was a life or death decision at that time. This is 5 years ago. And I, I I have a clear head. I don't feel that I don't know. It's hard to explain. For me, it was like being wrapped in cellophane constantly.
Mm.
So,
Oh, Joanne, thank you for that. I'm sorry
oh,
if I had put you
sorry.
on the spot, but I
No,
was
no,
like,
it's
this is
okay.
like so resonant, you
I
know?
don't often get to share that with anyone that understands. I've been in recovery from alcohol for 32 years,
Hmm.
and you can't share that because
Hmm.
people are like, "Oh, what are you doing?" So
Mm.
I don't have a problem with that because I think that, I think part of my purpose in this next step is if I can share that or share what I know or help other people, then that's the blessing in the end. Um, to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
I want to share a piece just about Joanne, and that was a funny part of our story. You know, Joanne, of course, that when
Uh,
Joanne left her first retreat, I wasn't sure that anything had really shifted, and I particularly remember, I was like, well, we kept her safe, and and I just remember thinking, oh, I hope that, in the integration or the time after that she does feel better. And then a few years later, I get on a call with someone named Joanne, and I had forgotten her last name, and I see her face. And I remember just Joanne, this was just, about a year ago when we
right.
talked again, and I go, oh no, I don't know if this worked for this person. And then the story you told me was just like, blew me away, where you're like, from the day that I left that retreat, I have not been depressed for one day. And I mean,
No.
like, I would never have known that. I would have never. Some people have very like miraculous, like outward expressions at the retreat, right? And they're like, "Oh my God," and I feel like a new person. And then some people it takes months, or it takes going home. It takes like the processing for them to
Mm.
understand, like, wow, this is
It took
this
me a couple
experience.
months.
Yeah, because it's a huge experience. We're compressing this healing into these few days together, which
Yes.
is why it's intense, which is why it's, I think that we do a good job of like keeping you safe and fed and
Yeah.
loved, because it's a big therapy. It's a big, like, and it is so many people, like you said, for a lot of people, they're like, it's life or death. And it's, I can't take this anymore.
Yes.
Um, and like, what an honor it is to, for me, it's like, I must have been doing this for a long time. I feel like, because that doesn't scare me at all. Like, that's an honor for me because I trust this medicine and this process so
Mhm.
deeply. Again, that it's not a magical cure for everyone, but it's something that we were meant to be in relationship with on this planet. And I think that as humans, we would be so much healthier if we had a relationship with psilocybin from like a younger age. If we didn't wait until we're about to die, or we didn't wait until we've been anxious for 40 years. Like, imagine what it could be if we had this type of therapy from, age
Right.
21, right? Where like once or twice a year, you get a complete like brain reset, emotional reset, right? You get to like kind of clear away all the cobwebs and all the grief and all the things. And so instead of processing 45 years of grief, you process 2 years of grief, and then you process 1 year of grief. And that's what this medicine's done for me, is like, now it's upkeep, right? Now it's like, and I feel it. I'm like, oh, now it's time for the mushrooms again. I've been getting back into maybe some old thought patterns or some
Yeah.
unworthiness, and then it's like, I bring it all, and it kind of, like you said, it just clears that away, and it kind of resets. That's why people say, like, it just feels like a reset, like resetting the brain, resetting the emotions, that clarity of just like, oh, I can think now. I can
Mhm.
And it's funny, there was just, I posted this a few days ago on Instagram, but Dr. Robin Carhart Harris, some of you may have heard of him. He's a very prominent scientist in the psilocybin world. He's now at UC Berkeley. He's from the UK, but he's one of the prominent figures in scientific research. And he posted, there was recently a journal of medicine that came out with all of this evidence that for much of the SSRI trials, for when those were being done, that there was massive misreporting of information, that there was completely overblown how helpful they are. And it's a really big deal in the scientific community because, if we can't trust like evidentiary medicine, like what are we doing? Like that is, it's, I don't know how it's going to be handled, but I think people are waking up to the fact that like we can't, no matter how well some people have responded to SSRIs, which I think is wonderful, we can't have that as the only option. It can't be the only
No.
option. There's just it's not healing enough. It doesn't help enough people for the side effects that they have over time. And so I think that psilocybin can really be, for some people it's a combination, right? They need to stay on a low dose of their SSRIs or their certain medications, and they can still take psilocybin as well. For some, they want to come off or they want to taper and see if maybe it's an option to come off. And then they talk to their doctor and it's like, what is the option here? And for many people, I have to be blatantly honest, and I don't think Pfizer likes me that much, but for some people, they just never go back on anything. They're like, I just don't need it anymore. I just don't need it anymore. And that doesn't mean there's any shame in needing medication. We all need something sometime. But
Okay.
psilocybin long term for the brain has, I mean, there's no way to compare side effects. As far as I know, there are absolutely zero negative long term side effects of psilocybin. Maybe it needs more research. In my experience with over 2,000 people, no one has ever negatively reported anything after, right? As far as the things that you might get from certain medications like brain zaps and seizures and extreme like withdrawal symptoms that might come from some of those medications. And now with this journal coming out, show like I don't know to the extent because I didn't read the journal myself. I probably really need to read the whole thing of like to what percentage was being misreported, right? Like what was being left out of these papers, and when are we going to redo that research? To really like for the safety. So I don't want to go on a tangent too much about medication, but what I want to say is, I think the way that we work with medication, and this is for Jacqueline and anyone who's on medication, there was also another study that came out recently, and I've known this for years, but I've just been working underground, I think. You don't have to completely go off of those meds in order for the mushrooms to be effective. You really don't. And, our suggestion is to be at the lowest possible dose that your doctor recommends during the retreat. But you don't have to go off completely. And that includes, Prozac lithium, Wellbutrin, uh, Lexapro, like a lot of the different like antidepressants. The anti-anxiety medications like Xanax or the benzodiazepines, the more pain medications, those ones we have to be more careful with because those numb and nullify the effects of psilocybin. The SSRIs and the SSNIs don't, not as much as we used to think. You can still kind of break through, but anti-anxiety, sleep medication, things that work on your neurology to kind of numb the system, those tend to like, it's like mushrooms, and those really compete when they're trying to get into your brain. And so those are the ones that we try to either get off of at least for, a few weeks before, or have like the lowest dose possible. Because I've learned my lesson. I was a little bit too lenient early on in my career, and there would be some people who are like, well, I have to just take a little bit of Ambien, or I just take a little bit of this, and then they would have a mushroom journey, and the next day they're like, oh, it wasn't what I thought. Other people had deeper journeys, like it was just kind of light. And we know now that that's because both of those meds are working on the same receptors. So when you have something that's already filling a receptor in the brain, like the mushrooms just can't, they can't get in. and they can't have the same effect that they would. So we do it on a case-by-case basis. We have a nurse that works with us, Nurse Nikki, who's one of our leaders. I think there's someone, I don't know if this is Karina who just was at a retreat, but some of you may even have worked with Nikki. And so Nikki's done a lot of psychedelic work, and she's also an active RN that works in, I think she's in emergency medicine right now. And she just will know, not only medication, but like history of psychiatric disorders in your family line, just some of those like really safety questions that we like to be sure that everyone that comes to a retreat is safe. We want to, so she can help you either, titrate your medication or talk to your doctor to be sure that you have enough time to, we don't want people just like randomly stopping medication. That's not safe either. So.
Right. Are there any other indicated medications?
Not really.
Like high blood pressure or anything like
Blood
that?
pressure is fine. Anything that works on the heart is usually fine. The only thing we screen for is like extreme low blood pressure, like a history of low blood pressure, and that's more for safety reasons, for fainting. Psilocybin can lower or raise your blood pressure. Just it kind of like plays with it a little bit. So if you just have like, we would just want to be really careful of getting you up and down and making sure you have food, making sure we can help regulate that, because fainting is probably the biggest danger, I would say, of psilocybin.
Right.
Like as far as like physiologically, it's a really safe medicine. It's the safest of the psychedelics for your body, for your biology, even I would even say for your psychology. It's definitely the least contraindicated of any other psychedelic. Which is why I like working with it, because it's also super powerful. But ayahuasca and DMT and even peyote to a certain extent, other ketamine is not really a psychedelic, but it's a dissociative, very different, and it doesn't, in my opinion, does not belong in the same category. But ketamine has its own benefits. That's for a different day.
Especially for horses.
Horses and humans, just depends on the dose, I guess. I have this like angel light coming down from me above. Before I let you go, I know that there's still some people on here. If you can please drop your email in the chat, just so I know who you are. Merv had a question. Does someone who takes high blood pressure medication need to be concerned? That's what we were just talking about. That's a great question. No, we have plenty of people that are on blood pressure meds. Should not be a problem. If you are like, if it's very unregulated, this is more of a question for our nurse, because I am not a nurse, but I know I've talked with quite a few people. It's more like if it goes up and down too much and you're not on medication. So the fact that you are on medication for it is actually a great thing. It's just controlling it. The only ones we really want to look at are like neurological affecting medications that really affect your neurology, as well as even something like over-the-counter sleep medicine. That stuff's crazy sometimes, right? And so that unfortunately would have a negative, it wouldn't be contraindicated, but it would just have a negative dulling effect on the mushrooms. Ellen says, interested in a Mexico retreat, the airport. So for the Mexico retreat coming up next week and in August, so August 17th is our next retreat in Mexico. Mexico City is the airport for those, MEX. There are 2 airports in Mexico City. That's the main one. And strangely, we had someone pull out last minute for this next retreat coming up next week, and I will be there. So if anybody is like, hey, let's go, I want to go now, let's go to Tepoztlan, you have that opportunity. We literally have 1 space. It starts next Monday, if you can believe it. So less than a week. If you feel the call, I have some weird feeling in my body that there is going to be someone who takes that space. So my email I'm going to put here, of course, is hello@thebuenavida.net. For California, coming up in July, we are offering a discount because we know it's super hot. And I'm like, it's hot. People are like, the desert in the summer. And I was like, okay, discount for everybody. And guess what? I can do that because I'm the founder. Yay. So we're offering, I'm going to type this in the chat, $700 off of a shared room and $1,000 off of a private room for California in July 9th through the 13th. I think we have about 5 people in that one right now, so there's about 5 more spaces. And yeah, we got one. And then August, there's a few people coming in August in Mexico. Tepoztlan, if you guys don't know it, I didn't know it even when I lived there. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's magical. It's mountainous. It's waterfalls. It's a little bit of the like rainy and sunny season right now. And the retreat center we're at has a saltwater pool and a hot tub and a Turkish sauna, and it's just the beauty there is breathtaking. It's one of those places you've like never really heard of in Mexico, and then you get there and you're like, what? What is this secret magical land? So we've been doing retreats there kind of in the summers for the past few summers. We've also done our facilitator training at this retreat center. Excellent food. The chef there just gets all the food from local people and knows where. You ask him, where are those blueberries from? Where is that beef from? Like, he just knows where everything is from and knows the name of the people who brought it to him. It's like a really incredible connection to the food there. And yeah, for our 7 days, we do 3 high dose ceremonies. It's a lot, and it's like Joanne was saying, like it's absolutely transformative and beautiful. And in California, we do 2. So 2 is also a lot, right? 2 ceremonies in about 5 days. That's the point of what we do here. I don't ever, someone texted me the other day, hey, do you guys ever offer 1-day ceremonies? Nope. That's just not what we do. I like to offer people the best possible circumstances to actually heal and to actually change and to actually feel better. And sure, if if you just want to experience mushrooms, right, you can find some on the internet or in your neighborhood, and you can get a trip sitter who come to your house and who will babysit you, and you can experience mushrooms that way. But what we do at Buena Vida is so much more than that. It's so much more about the holistic healing. It's about learning tools that you can take home. It's about the love and the care and the safety, so that, for some people, this experience is one of the biggest and most intense experiences in their whole life. And I've had some people say, like next to birthing my own child, this was the most intense experience. So when you think of that, you want people around you that know what they're doing. You want people around you that like you can look at and absolutely trust. And I now, especially after all these years, trust my team with my life. The women I work with are not only talented and experienced, but just have huge hearts and are grounded and know how to hold you and know how to keep the whole space safe, your body safe, your spirit, even if you don't know what that means, like, right, there are many different elements and many different things that are happening when we open ourselves up to psychedelics. That's why they can be dangerous. That's why people can have dangerous experiences, is because they don't realize. They're like, oh, this is just going to make me feel weird for a few hours, or this is just going to make me look at silly colors. No, like, psychedelics are dangerous because until you take them, for those of you that have never taken a psychedelic, until you take them, you can't quite grasp what you're doing to yourself, like how you're opening as Aldous Huxley said, the doors of your perception. So it would be like, think of the craziest dream you've ever had. If you like entered that world and all of a sudden you're in that world, you'd be like, oh, I hope I have a guide around here. I hope I have somebody keeping me safe in this whole new world that I'm in. And this is why psychedelics, like, they really dissolve, a lot of times people might call this an ego death, or it might be, they dissolve the boundaries of what we think we knew about reality, of what we think we knew about our bodies and about God or not God or universe or anything, any concept that you think really well. Many times those dissolve, and you get the chance to like really tap into your true inner knowing of what is true for you, outside of your family, outside of society, outside of a program that you've been given. And that's a really, really beautiful experience, but it's also like ungrounding, right? It's like, okay, my whole reality just shattered. I certainly hope someone's there for me tomorrow to help me, to help me like come back into my body and be on this earth and guide me through the process of like, everything I knew about myself just got shattered. Now what do I do? It doesn't happen to everyone, but it can happen, right? So you need a place that's going to prepare you I always tell people that go, oh, I could just have someone come to my house and kind of watch me, while I take psychedelics. I was like, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. But I was like, do you really want to open up and clear out your whole brain and your whole perception of reality and the next day go to Costco? No. Do you just want to start watching Netflix later that night? No, not really. Because if someone hands you a brand new brain, right, you might want a few days to like rewrite the stories and actually take time away from your life, and be safe and supported. And, psilocybin is very intense on the brain, and you need time to readjust and to let your serotonin levels like come back into their correct levels. And so this is what we do. This is why we do 5 and 7 day retreats, because I believe that this work, if you have the privilege to, to be able to take the time away and to have the money to do this kind of work, it is my goal. And I've heard from everyone that has come that this is absolutely worth it, if not more. I know that it can be a big investment. And when I go to retreats at other places, sometimes I'm like, ooh, okay, this is a big investment. But then I'm like, well, but this is my mental health, and this is my emotional health, and this is my life. Like, this is my internal world that I'm, for me, I only really go see my teachers because I trust them. But, it's like, after I went to my last time I went to my teacher up in the mountains in Ecuador, when I was in ceremony, I was just like, I'm going to give you $10,000. I don't know why. Something just came to me, and I was just like, what you have done for my life, what you have given me, what you've taught me, how you've kept me safe, like, this is worth so much to me. It's worth everything to me. And so it's about placing, the value in those places. And so I hope you guys value this. And if you don't ever want to come to a retreat, or you can't afford a retreat, or you don't want to do that, this is why we do these webinars with my little, I know I have this like weird angel light going on above me. We always do free webinars. We always want to introduce you to our team. We always want to provide you with resources and a community, a place to be seen, to be felt, maybe to learn a tool or two. And so to close tonight, a reminder from, I know some of you joined a little bit late. If you want me to send you a message, drop your email I always do this, drop your email in the chat, or tell me who you are. I won't badger you with emails, but I probably will just say hello. It's funny, I don't like badgering people with emails, but then every now and then I have a favorite person in my email list that I enjoy their emails. And maybe I haven't ever done anything that they've offered, but I just like sneak and read them every now and then. And I'm like, ooh, I like when they send me something. Yeah. For grief, your instructions, if you so wish to feel your grief or to start to process some of the hidden grief that we spoke about tonight, is really simple tools. I always say, if you have no other practice in your whole life ever, no meditation, no yoga, no nothing, is just sit and close your eyes for a few minutes. That's it. No distractions, no sounds, nothing. If you can just sit with your own self and close your eyes, so many things start to happen. So much of that, things rise to the surface. And if you would like to, with grief, is to ask yourself some of those questions that we had tonight, which is, what have I been carrying for too long? Sometimes that's a story. Sometimes that's anger. Unforgiveness is a big one. And another one is that I like to ask myself is like, who would I be if I didn't have this? Who would I be beyond this grief? How does she feel? And then, like we did with Lindsay, if you would like to, if you are getting ready to lose something, right? If your family is changing, if someone's going to college, if you're going to retire, is to sit with that loss, right? Sit with the trueness of it, of like, wow, everyone thinks this retirement's so great, but like, I don't know if I feel that way. Allow it to come to the surface. Acknowledge it. Don't push it away and put things on top of it. Like, it's going to be okay. I'll be fine. I'll find some hobbies. Everyone retires. It's not that big of a deal, right? This is what we tend to do with our true emotions, is just start covering it up with other things. sit with that loss, sit with the confusion and the scare that I don't know, that this is weird. And then, if you'd like to, make a ritual that honors what you are losing. The suggestion with Lindsay, with her family of four, that's now going to be a family of three, is take all four of you, your clan, your group, to the ocean or to a mountain, right? Go somewhere in nature, and have everyone sit together and say their favorite memory of your family, your favorite time together. And you don't even have to call it a ritual, right? You don't even have to make a big deal of it. But this has helped me so much in my life, is to make the non-physical, right? Like our brain, our thoughts, to make the non-physical physical. And so, like right now that I've been grieving my youth, I was like, ooh, what could be a beautiful way that I could take a symbol of my youth and let it go, right? Like maybe take a symbol of who I used to be and put it in a fire, or, write it a love letter and just be like, I love this time of my life. I loved, maybe to my youth, I've been thinking, oh, I didn't appreciate it enough. Like, what if I could write a letter of appreciation for my youth and be like, hey, I'm here, I'm in the future, but like, man, let me tell you how great that was. Let me tell you what I loved about this. Feel your grief. If you feel stuck, if you feel things aren't moving, there's usually something below it that we're unwilling to feel. It's probably what I've learned more than anything else on this path of psychedelics and self-discovery, is that like we as humans, we're so afraid to just be with ourselves and to feel things. Psychedelics help. And if you would like to come to a retreat, I'd love to have you. I would absolutely love to. And last thing I'll say before we jack off, I know some people just jumped in here. I'm so sorry. This will be recorded and sent out to you. The people that just came in, to Jean and Barbara and iPhone 503. I'm just kidding. In the chat, I wrote it again. If you would like to come to a retreat in California, we're offering a little bit of a discount for our July retreat. And there is one space that just opened up for Mexico that starts next week with myself and Miss Anna in Mexico. Anna and Honey, some of our top leaders that have been with me the longest. And we also have a Mexico retreat in August for those of you that are thinking ahead of time. I love you very much. I wish you all wholeness, not just happiness, but wholeness. I wish you integration of all of your parts, of your parts that you love and the parts that you don't love so much. And thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate you. Thanks, Merv. Thanks, friends. If you do this on Zoom, you get a heart. This is what I like to do. Let's see what happens. Oh, yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming and talking about grief with me. I wasn't sure.
Amanda,
Yeah.
when you have the opportunity,
Uh-huh.
I would like to have a conversation.
I will send you my calendar. Private chat with Amanda.
If you would.
Yeah, absolutely will. I have your email.
You do?
Oh yeah. I
Yes,
know
you do.
man. Thank you for sharing tonight. It was so powerful.
I don't ever get the opportunity to do that, so I'm more than happy to do that.
I still want to do a podcast with you because I really feel like your story and just, how much you had tried before and like where you were at and everything.
Yeah.
And again, coming twice too, right? Like those were two very different retreats.
Well, that second one almost took me to Mars, but yeah.
Oh,
But I'd like to have a conversation about it if you have some time.
I do, and I would love to hear it.
Because some of it's boiled back up.
It's coming back up. Come back up to be seen.
Yeah.
You're on the circular staircase, right? Keep revisiting.
Yeah.
Slightly different each time. It's the
Yeah.
hardest part of healing, is acknowledging that sometimes.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'll send you a message tomorrow and we will chat.
All right.
I'm going to Mexico on Friday, but let's make a time.
All right. Cool.
Good night,
Thanks.
friends.
Appreciate you.
Love you all very much. Hope
Thanks
to see
for your
you
time.
in Mexico or California. If you've never been, you can do it. Just have to decide and then give us a call.
Take care of yourself.
I love you.